Let's start this.
Hi, I'm Sebastian, and in this video I'll show you how to recreate the bass sound of Don't Start Now by Dua Lipa. This will be an in-depth tutorial on sound creation and not just a regular bass cover. If you want to learn how to play the song on the other hand, go check out the lesson the great Ian Martin Ellison did for Scott's bass lessons. So if you're interested in pedals, effects, sounds, or just curious, have fun watching. All the others will have a hard time, I promise. Since there are 3 different bass sounds in the song, I will divide the video into 3 parts as well. The first part concentrates on the verse bass sound, the second on the pre-chorus, and the third on the chorus. This is not a sponsored video. I bought all the stuff by myself and I love all the crazy little rectangles that are on my board. In an interview, Ian Kirkpatrick, the producer, said that the bass we hear on the record is a plug-in called Scarby MM Bass, and they sampled a real Music Man Stingray for the plug-in, which means go get your Music Man Stingray that you of course are flying around somewhere, or get at least a bass with a humbucker in the bridge position and leave the EQ flat. On a Music Man Stingray, on my Music Man Stingray, this is what it sounds like. On a Music Man Stingray, even with the EQ flat, there are still a lot of high frequencies we don't need for the song. And because we haven't lost our treble long ago, we need to cut the high frequencies. I do that by creating a parallel signal path inside the ES8 switcher. The first signal is going to input 1 of the source audio C4 synth through a 4-pole low-pass filter to get rid of the clanky, clicky, scratchy stuff and out of output 1. The other signal that gets mixed with the dry filtered bass you just heard goes to input and output 2 of the C4, but only to produce a pure sine wave that I use to fatten up the low end. Mr. Kirkpatrick mentioned this in one of his interviews as well. Then we need to throw a bit of dirt on the sound, and I do that by turning up the drive on my preamp, which is the VT Deluxe from Tech 21, until it gets a bit more saturated. But you could use any kind of overdrive pedal for this. Okay, so far so good, but I'm still not done here. The bass is the hook element of that song, so it needed to stand out. And if you listen closely, preferably with headphones, you hear that the bass is not in the dead center, but is a bit wider. To achieve this, you could use a stereo chorus or flanger pedal, but in this case, any kind of modulation would not do the trick. Instead, use a digital stereo delay like the collider from Source Audio and do the following. First, mix the wet and dry signal 50-50. Then, turn down the feedback knob all the way so that you get only 1 repeat from the delay. Lastly, bring the delay time down to 0 and turn it up slightly until you hear your delay doing something. What it does will be called the Haas effect, which is used to create a stereo image from a mono source by delaying one signal to the other. That's it for the verse bass sound, and we can move on to the... Okay, right now you see I've opened the new desktop app to show you the C4 synth pedal and what I've done here to create the pre-chorus sound. The verse bass sound, which consists of a dry bass that's been filtered and a sine wave. This dry bass is doubled by a synth bass line, at least in recording, and I tried to emulate that as well, so I added 2 more synthy voices to the dry bass sound with the sine wave, and I added a sawtooth and a square wave. Both of them are slightly detuned and both of them are modulated by the internal LFO, so the detune knob gets turned left and right by the internal LFO to give it a little bit of a chorusy effect, which sounds a little bit fuller. The rest of the sound stays the same. We have the collider with a very short delay and the VT Deluxe. For the chorus sound, the trusty old formula of octaver into fuzz into a low-pass filter is the way to go here. My octaver sound comes from the C4 as well, and I just mix in a little bit of dry signal to beef up the sound. Now to the fuzz. There's no better gated fuzz to go with an octaver pedal than the Mastertron from Zvex. Go change my mind. Next in line is my trusty low-pass filter, the Moog MF101. Now we only need to add a wide stereo chorus this time. Mine is the Gemini chorus from Source Audio. Here's everything in context with the song. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you found this interesting, learned something, and are excited for my next video. Please leave me a comment, especially if you have questions. Till next time.
Did a full 180, crazy, thinking about the way I was. Did the